Well, what's going on, guys? So we're back again with another gameplay video. This time we have Adam here on the left playing Sin Shenron, and we have Perth Pro Players team member Jason here on the right playing Gogeta Xeno. So just before we get started into the gameplay video, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Team Card Titan. So if you guys want any DBS Seal products or DBS singles, make sure you check out that link in the description below. For all the people in Australia and New Zealand, check out their auction page on Facebook as well. Now, they have kind of done the same thing that they did with the yellow Sin deck, and they've kind of slow rolled out more and more for this deck, which is awesome. So you can go really hard and heavy into the mill route. You can also play it a little bit aggressive now with some of the other new cards that have come through. So there's lots of different options, which is great. I know this variant, Adam is definitely going for more of the mill, which I guess allows him to play a slower game, right? And that new card, I think it's called Ultimate Ice Ray, that is like a dormant potential where you discard 2 cards and then it allows you to prevent your opponent from attacking so much for the turn. I think it's only with battle cards. So if you sequence it right, it's more like a Nimbus, I guess, right, effect, but still pretty strong. And as well as it's got almost like the Brainwash no more, where he can use the extra card, crit a life, I believe it is, and then not take damage for the turn as well, which is great too. So that kind of gives him a little bit of extra protection. Now, Gogeta Xeno is still as disgusting as it always has been. Probably one of the strongest decks at the moment. Obviously, the RNG can screw some people over, which happens every now and then, but I still think it just comes back so easily. Has so many good tools. Can be very, very aggressive when it needs to be, just be able to close out the game very quickly. But it can also play a bit of a long game if it needs to sometimes, depending on what you have to do, right? So sometimes you do have to play that longer game. It's very good at doing that still. So I feel like in this matchup, it's going to be interesting. We'll see how many times Gogeta decides to go for the mill off the top, because that also could help Adam's win con here, right? There's always that potential that if the game does go on too long, Adam can get a bit of a mill out, because he can get them pretty regularly going during the opponent's turn as well as his own now, which is great. So we are going to use the effect of Toa, right? So we draw a card, we have to bottom. So we do have to bottom something. We are going to then warp that Nova from hand, and we're going to check top 5 so we can grab a Shadow Dragon. So I guess the good thing here is I said before that you drop 2 cards from hand, but the thing is what it does is you drop 2 cards from hand, and then it allows you to just pick up 2 more cards, because everything in this deck is Shadow Dragon. I don't think there's anything that's not Shadow Dragon as far as I remember. So very easy to make sure that even when you're using that effect to kind of Nimbus the opponent, you just be able to get those cards back anyway, so it's not really like losing cards, which is pretty great. All right, so we are going to use Leader Effect, be able to discard, draw, and then also get the effect of the Nova too, which is great. Swing in with, looks like Toa here too, so putting some aggression on. It's always, look, it's a hard decision, right? Because you almost want to kill him soon if you can, but in this deck, it's almost not worth really attacking too much. I think Adam wants to really play a long game here, just try to slow it down as much as possible, so then we can hopefully get the mill out. Now, it doesn't look like Jason has a pair at the moment. I'm pretty sure he's only got one 30k Vegeta. No Kai either, like the one that we want to be able to play out that mirror. So sadly, only a 5k Goku and then also a 30k Vegeta, right? But he can always do it from hand. That's not a problem. And he's got quite a few options there in hand. But what we're going to go for is go fighting against Fate, right? This card's absolutely phenomenal. I feel like it's ridiculous. Means that we can go for our Awaken this turn. And it depends how aggressive we want to be as well, right? Because there is that potential that we do go aggressive and try to just close out the game before Adam can really do too much, which is fair enough. So it looks like we're going to swing into lead, taking that damage. Swinging once again, I'm assuming into leader. Drawing a card and deciding whether we want to take a life or not. Looks like we are going to take the life, so we are going to go for a bit more of the aggressive route. We have found our Gogeta Xeno too, which is great. Throwing a super combo behind, so this shows me that we've got to overwhelm, right? Because we have picked them up as well. If you've remembered, so what's happened is we've picked up the 3-cost Trunks off flipping to the warp. Which gives us exactly our overwhelm. So we've got, I believe, 1 in drop at the moment, and then we've got, there you go, another 2 in drop, which allows us to overwhelm put in a super combo, correct? So we put the super combo in. That means we have two 5Ks just here, which then allows us to go into our Gogeta and start swinging in if we wish. Now, we're just going to keep the pressure on as much as possible. And this is kind of what this deck does, right? It's kind of all gas. That's what we want to do, is we want to just keep swinging as much as possible. But now we're going to fill up our drop area a little bit once again. So if we do need to overrun, we've got it there again, okay? And then the next turn, being a 3 energy, we have access to our other Gogeta SR too. So we're going to go for our Awaken here, getting more cards in hand and swinging in with Double Strike into the leader, I would say. There's no point swinging into the Unison. He's just going to block, add a marker to it. It's not really valuable for him. So swing straight into the leader, right? Try to force some damage through. Adam only being at 3 life and 1 energy is pretty insane. But the scary thing is now he does have quite a fat grip. So there is that potential that he can protect himself quite a bit here. So we're going to load up the drop area once again. 2 and 2. So now we've got 4 in there. Drawing ourselves a card. Unfortunately, nothing to warp. But if Stubbs chooses here, he can keep the aggression on, right? So we could potentially force an Awaken here this turn if we really want to, and try to keep the pressure on as much as possible. He does have quite a lot of cards in hand though, so more than likely just a combo out quite easily. But it also takes away 2 cards from hand, right? So it's not terrible. So potentially we're going to go for our Awaken. Looks like we are hitting our Awaken. 1 and 1. So that's kind of what we want, right? We're just getting max value out of that. I'm surprised because it looks like he did have a super combo in hand. So I'm surprised we didn't just go for the super combo there. Unless we don't have our Sparking 5 just yet, which is a potential. Maybe we don't have our Sparking 5 just here. Another 1 cost in the drop, which is good for Gogeta this year, right? Because that's given him a Fighting Against Fate on board, and then he's also got a Gogeta in drop. Actually, I think he has both. So he has both a Gogeta, a Goku and a Vegeta 1 cost in drop. Now, if he has the SR that next turn, that means it's 3 extra swings, right, going into this leader. So it can put on quite a lot of damage. Scary thing is obviously facing down that Gogeta as well. So we're just going to combo out there, taking it up to 20k, which is fair enough. Adding Trunks back to hand, and that's, I guess, the beauty of that card as well, right? You warp it off the top, you add it to your hand, you use it, it goes to warp, you add it back to your hand. You're just going to keep having that card, right, until you combo it off or something like that. But the fact that it's still just recurring combo is very, very strong. Now, Adam's got a full grip though, so it is kind of scary, right? As I said, he wants to play the long game though. So him having cards to combo and protect himself is the important thing here. So he probably isn't going to go for a hell of a lot this turn. I would dare say that he would tap out because that'd be pretty scary. I think what he'd want to do is he probably wants to keep up. I think it's Ultimate Ice Ray. I could be completely wrong, but he could keep up the 2 energy so he can use that card as well, rather than having to go for the Spirit Boost, keep it high. That could be beneficial for him, right, just here. But we'll see what he decides to do. I would say he will go for the protection route because that can kind of slow down the game for him quite a bit. But scary board we're facing down, right? So we probably just want to get rid of that Goku 1 cost as soon as possible. We know what's in the Gogeta player's hand, though, so we know that that card's returning very swiftly, right? We can see that's going to happen 100%. And then we're just going to keep the pressure on. That's all we're going to try to do is keep the pressure on. We're at 3 life. Yes, we've got negates and things like that, but it's rather scary how much pressure we can put on. So we have gone for the swing of the Unison. I probably would say we just go for the swing of the leader just to get some draws and things going, and maybe potentially force some cards from hand. Or yeah, we go for the swing into this, try to clear it off the board if we can, or again, we lose some cards from hand, which is okay as well, because it does gain the 5k on the swing, so it is 20k. There is that potential, though, that we may want to save this card. So it looks like we're just going to combo up. I believe it goes to 20. Maybe I'm wrong. It is a 16, sorry, though. So it does go to 21. My apologies. It's not a 15. It is a 16. So, yes, he combos out of that with just 1 card, which is quite good. It's always nice about those little 16s and 19s and things like that. You get that little bit of extra protection, which is kind of cool. So, Adam going to pay 1 energy here. Flipping, adding to hand, and probably the card that he really wants to play out, he just flipped, which is great, which allows him to, I believe this is the one on the swing, warp something, and then it restands as well and doubles as a blocker too, which is great. So we're going to warp that Gogeta straight away. get rid of it, which is very strong. It is critical as well, which is quite scary. I believe it's a 20k. I can't remember exactly what it is. It could be a 19 here. I could be wrong, but we are just going to combo out. Looks like comboing another SR Gogeta, which is surprising because I think that's probably the card that he's going to go and play this turn. Now we have got a Kai in hand, which is great. So as long as we can get a mirror into the drop, into the warp, we can play that out, and then that puts a lot of pressure on. And I can also see we've got the Pan SER in hand there as well, which is rather scary. Looks like we do have access to another Gogeta, but this is the other way we can grab it back very easily, right? So just having a little squeeze, see what we've got, what's going to be the most powerful play here. And as I said, we can grab that SR back to our hand if we wish now. Sadly, no grabbing or super combos or anything like that, but that's okay. We can also grab like a double strike if we really need to, I believe. I can't remember if it states black or not, but we are just going to grab a 30k Vegeta, which is quite a nice card too, because going for that Xeno Evolve can be quite beneficial. He's not really untapping any energy or anything in this. So let's see what we decide to do. So going for our Gogeta, good choice, of course, so then we can kind of swing, get rid of that blocker straight away, and also the card that can warp other cards. Getting rid of that straight away is very important, so it doesn't stop one of our attacks, right? So we warp it before it blocks. Yeah, so it goes to warp before we block, sadly, because his auto would trigger first. So we're getting that off the board straight away, forcing a 25. Now we're going to super combo up, taking it to 35k, which is quite a few cards in hand, right? Looks like we found another mirror. So if we can, this is the thing, right? If we can get a Kai in our warp and we get the mirror going, it'd be quite nice. So looks like we're going to go for our Spirit Boost. Having to mill 2, we're discarding 2. So we discard 2 Shadow Dragons, 1 and 2 in a second. And then what happens is, as I said, the good thing about this deck is it's pretty much like you discard 2, but you still get 2 cards. Because that's a Shadow Dragon, that's a Shadow Dragon. So quite nice, we just add them straight to our hand. Now what happens is he can only swing once more for, not once more for the turn, but just once more with battle cards for the turn, right? So that's kind of the limiting thing just here. So we're taking it 25, 35, gonna take it up to 40k. And I guess this is what Adam wants to do, right? He wants to be able, 25, 35, yeah, 40k. So 35, 45, 45, so he needs up to 50, my apologies. Can't count here tonight. So yeah, he needs to just slow down the game in his favor as much as possible. Jason's doing the right thing though, just trying to keep the pressure on as much as possible, right? As I said, it's only swing one more time with a battle card is specifically what it says. So he can swing with leader still getting that draw, but he can also swing with that 30k battle card as well, which is quite strong. Quite scary as well. Going to force a lot of cards from hand for Adam, which is rather scary too. So we are going to swing in with leader, just 15. I'm assuming we probably just leave it 15 to 15 here, unless for some reason we have like a double strike Champer or something in hand. But looks like we're just hitting that, swinging into 30k. Definitely taking that damage. We're not comboing out. It's too many cards from hand, letting it pass. So we didn't get the SR out this turn. Obviously, we use our energy for quite a few other things instead, because it limited how many attacks we could actually put through. I don't really think it was that valuable in that instant. And I definitely can see another one of those cards in Adam's hand as well. So we know he can do pretty much exactly the same thing next turn, which is quite valuable for him as well. And he's getting mills going. So it looks like Stubbs only milled, I believe, twice in this game. I don't think he's gone for any more, maybe even just once, which is definitely the right choice against a mill deck, right? Because it is rather scary. If you're going to take 5 from the top of your deck, it makes it very, very scary. But we know we have Kai in our hand, so we can just combo off a Kai, do an overrun the next turn, and then we've got Kai to bottom deck, and we get a mirror out on the board, which can up our aggression even more. So looks like we're swinging into this Gogeta here. Thinking about what to combo, looks like, right? Maybe doesn't have anything to get out on the board that can just like warp it or anything like that. It's always hard though, because this deck has so many outs to that card disappearing, right? Like you just go and pick it up with that Goku that he used before. You've got 4 copies, so more than likely you have another one in hand anyway. It's just nice and easy to pick back up. It's one of those cards that's probably going to hang around more often than not, or just like even if it goes, it's going to come back, right? So mill 1 looks like plussing there for the activate battle. So I think he goes up to 30k, I believe, because I'm pretty sure he's a 20k on the swing. So Stubbs does have to combo out. Looks like that's another super combo, and I believe that is now all 4 super combos. So we have kind of gone through all of our super combos, and I guess most of our deck as well. So pretty interesting. We're not going to be able to push on a big swing or anything like that using super combos, which I guess that makes Adam feel a little bit safer. But the scary thing is that pretty much every card in his deck is comboable, right? There's not many that aren't comboable, so we can force a lot of damage through. And we definitely want to combo off, I would say, that Kai this turn so we can get our mirror on the board, maybe have another one in hand, bottom deck it, swing in, and do the big scary swing potentially, right? There is always that potential. You need to have it on board for at least 1 turn before that can happen, right? Because if it's going to come out on Kai, it gets 1 marker. You then have to do the plus to take it to 2, and then bottom 1 to take it to 3, right? Which is always a possibility. But it looks like what we're going to do, we're going to hit Oceanus. Stubbs having the card to say no to Oceanus straight away. So Super Kamehameha, very strong card, right? Just sends it to Warp. So he doesn't have to, I don't believe he has to discard in this situation, right? So he has to Warp for triggering it regardless, even though it's getting hit. And then Super Kamehameha, I believe the way it reads is it doesn't even hit the board. It doesn't negate, doesn't hit the board. So I don't think he has to discard in this situation, because I think it's only when it hits the board that you have to discard, if I remember correctly. So he probably didn't have to do that, but at least it gets him another card anyway in this deck, so it's not the end of the world. Hand is getting a little bit lower though, so that's a little bit scary, I guess. Don't want to see the hand go too low against Gogeta Xeno, knowing how much pressure they can put in and how much damage they can really, really force through, right? So it looks like we're going to probably hit our SR, right? Which is the right choice. Definitely going for the SR in this situation. Putting another Fighting Against Fate on board, or another 2, I guess, because you got the Vegeta and the Goku. Kind of scary, right? So we are going to swing in to leader with our Gogeta just here. Trying to force some damage. Now, more than likely, we've probably got like the Ultimate Ice Ray or something, again, that we can kind of stop, right? So we're going to hit Ultimate Ice Ray. Discard 2, we add 2. So the only downside though is a lot of these cards are extra cards, I guess, in the deck, which is kind of scary. So leaving it at a 20k just here. Hopefully we have access to a double strike Champa. That's what I'm hoping. So we can force this next swing through, right? That's the ideal thing, is swinging this next one through and actually making it connect would be the ideal thing to do. And you could easily do that by getting out the Fighting Against Fate, buffing him up with the leader effect, and then swinging, taking a life, taking it to 35, which is pretty big. All right, so we're going to bottom deck it. We're going to play out 2 1 costs. So Fighting Against Fate and a Vegeta as well. Both very strong cards in their own right. Leader effect, taking a life to buff it up. So now we have another instant where if he does negate, he does have to then warp another card as well, because that has now put another once per turn on the board too, right? So we're going to tax Adam as much as possible. Swinging into the leader here. Now, I think that's the right choice, technically, because I believe Dark Sin has a card that makes you warp a card during your turn, I believe, maybe. Which is kind of scary. So if it forces you to warp that card, you could, I guess, lose the game that way. Looks like we do have a Champa on board. Other thing we do have in hand as well, we do have a 40k 40k pan as well on the board. So as long as we keep enough cards on the board, we actually can play that and just swing in for a 40k. And he does have access to do that as well. So we are going to hit 25, 35, and then all extra cards there. So very sad. Unfortunately, look, kind of as I felt it was going to go. Unfortunately, we just couldn't stall out the game long enough with Sin, which meant that Gogeta Xeno really got the advantage early too, right? He got that early. Gogeta was able to apply pressure, took him down to 3 life on like turn 1, which is absolutely insane. Shows how powerful this deck is though and what it can do. So very interesting match. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to subscribe, hit that bell to stay notified, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.